How are you, sir?
Good to see you, Matt.
I like those cufflinks.
Thank you.
They're very nice. Okay, so James, you were the Deputy Chief of Staff in the White House. There's a bunch of you guys that are Deputy Chiefs of Staff, and a bunch of them are going to be here. All the President's men are going to be here at CPAC, so it's really exciting. Tell us about your specific role in the White House. We were talking about this last night. Tell us about the various departments that you oversee inside the White House.
Yeah, I really oversee the external portfolio of the White House. There's three main components to that. We have our Office of Legislative Affairs, which obviously is really the President's lobbying arm on Capitol Hill. We have the Office of Political Affairs, which is just the political operations that come from the White House and run externally, of course. And then the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, which deals with the interplay between federal, state, and local governments and tribal governments.
Okay, so we're seeing right now, in terms of a pace from President Trump, I mean, the amount of executive orders, I think I saw somebody say that there are more executive orders we've seen President Trump sign than there are primetime viewers on CNN, right? Like, but we're seeing the level of action is just incredible, right? Like, it's rapid fire, lots of different action out there. I'll tell you, the person that I think would really, and I know a little bit of something about this because I work for Breitbart, that I think would be absolutely loving this is the one and only Andrew Breitbart. And at CPAC, of course, we got to give Andrew Breitbart a shout out because Andrew Breitbart was CPAC, right? But tell us what it's like in there in the White House every day. It seems like it's a pretty crazy, wild schedule, if you will.
It's a frenetic pace for sure, but you know, the president has thought deeply about what he wants to accomplish in the time he was not in the White House, obviously. And he's been spending a lot of time planning and obviously asking his team to plan the actions that we've executed so far. So I get asked a lot, was all this planned? And you know, obviously new ideas come up every day, but a lot of it, if not most of it, was planned. He's thought deeply since he left the last time around, and he knows that he wants to accomplish a lot in a short period of time. So really, it's all of us just playing catch up with the president. It's great to have an energetic leader. He runs circles around all of us. He doesn't sleep. He works all the time, and he's really committed to making this time in office very useful for saving the country. I mean, he's just going to do what he said he was going to do, and that's it.
All right, so James, one of the major departments you oversee is the political affairs, obviously. You were the political director for the Trump campaign. One of the reasons why we are where we are today is that President Trump was able to, in this last election in 2024, pull off arguably one of the greatest political transformations in the history of mankind. I mean, we are seeing lifelong Democrats, frankly, vote for President Trump. A lot of black voters, Hispanic voters. I think I saw him put on his Truth Social recently a list of all the counties he flipped from Democrat control. Tell us, you're the nuts and bolts guy of how this happened, right? Like, so tell us, how did you guys pull this off from the Trump campaign? And then we'll get into how we hold it together, because I think it's important that we hold this together for the long term. But walk us through how you guys did it.
Yeah, well, so they say success is where preparation meets opportunity, right? Obviously, we had a plan, but the plan primarily was to capitalize on opportunities that existed within these, different populations of voters that maybe have not traditionally voted Republican. We've really seen, I mean, the last 10 years, really since President Trump came into office, has been a slow-moving realignment politically, and a lot of significant demographic shifts are coming with that that are good for Republicans writ large if, really very simply, Trump voters can be converted into Republican voters. And that is, I think, the main thing that everyone has to focus on for the midterms and going forward. And I think the reason for that is issues. I mean, good policy is good politics. President Trump is not like every Republican politician, as we all know, for the last several decades, particularly cuts against the mold of Washington. And I think that's really important. I think the number one thing, and just to put some stats on it, I mean, President Trump gained more popular votes than any Republican ever has. It was the first popular vote win. It was the first popular vote win for a Republican president in 20 years and the first non-incumbent since 1988. The House Republicans won more popular votes than they ever have, and he swept the Senate majority into office. And really, President Trump performs above all other Republicans. And that's because a lot of these voters that are with him have not come over to the party. And the way we solve for that going forward is to pass the agenda that he campaigned on. That's what they voted for. And I think that if we give the voters what they paid for with their vote, they will reward us with a long-term political realignment. One thing I like to point out is only because a lot of people say, well, presidents always lose the midterms. Often true, but not always. In the last 100 years, there's only 2 midterms where a president has added seats to both chambers of his party. One was 2002, and obviously that was post 9/11, kind of a unique time for our country, very patriotic, rallying around President Bush. And the other was 1934, which was after the New Deal passed. And that really set in motion a 100-year realignment of politics. And it came out of what they did. And I think that needs to be the model we're looking at, where we're not looking for incremental change, and we need our Republicans in Congress to help us with that. We need to look for big change. And I think if we enact big change, which the president campaigned on, we'll be rewarded politically for a long time.
Couldn't agree more. It feels like we have a different look. I've been doing this for a long time at Breitbart. I've been at Breitbart for 12 years. I've been reporting in the conservative movement for 15. It feels like the Republican Party is a different Republican Party now, and this is in large part thanks to President Trump and his endorsements. We've got new incoming exciting senators, people like Jim Banks from Indiana, who I think we heard from yesterday, Bernie Moreno from Ohio, Dave McCormick from Pennsylvania. Tim Sheehy from Montana. I mean, these are exciting young voices that are, 8 years ago, President Trump had a rough time of getting his cabinet through. This time around, he's actually beating with a smaller smaller majority of his party, Barack Obama. From 2009, when he was confirming his cabinet. The Trump's cabinet is almost all confirmed now. How has the party changed in a better way that is reflecting this transformation that we're talking about? Because it's bigger than Trump, I think. I think it's happening in the Senate. It's happening in the House, too.
Absolutely. I mean, frankly, I think our Republicans in Congress are getting on board and seeing that we can do things differently. Look, with the cabinet, President Trump selected a cabinet that reflects the diversity of the coalition that swept him into office and the diversity of thought, and that was important to him. And we're grateful to our Republican senators for moving them through with, relatively little hiccups overall. And I think the president's view is that those voices are what the people voted for, and that is the government they want to see. And I think the Senate sees that. I mean, it's undeniable, ultimately. And I do think that thinking back to 8 years ago, many people feel that in some ways President Trump's presidency wasn't given a chance because of the attacks that started from really pre-day one. And I think they recognize how much time he has spent reflecting on his 4 years in office and how he has come through the greatest weaponization in history, all the things that we all know. I mean, nobody has undergone more challenges to get to an office than President Trump, and I think they're quite deferential to giving him the opportunity and the team he wants to not have that happen again. And despite those challenges in the first term, he had a historic presidency. And now I think the feeling is, well, if we just support him and support the folks that helped get him elected, then maybe we'll all do better. A rising tide will lift all boats, and I think that's what we're seeing.
So, James, the big question is, the first major elections we're going to see in just a few short weeks here in Wisconsin. We have Wisconsin Supreme Court races coming up in April, the governor races and state level races later this year. We got some special elections coming up for some of the seats that have been opened up by cabinet picks. We've got, and then we have the midterm elections less than 2 years away. So how do you guys make sure that the political transformation we saw in November, those new voters, lock in beyond just that 1 year, that it isn't just a fleeting thing, that this is a lasting political realignment, similar to the 1934 one you're talking about in the FDR years?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, that's for sure. The Wisconsin Supreme Court race, we've been looking at numbers there, and there's some folks getting involved for the conservative. That'll be challenging, I'll say. I mean, it'll be challenging because if you look at the data in Wisconsin, what carries President Trump is a group of voters who only vote when Trump is on the ballot. And the thing that we have to accomplish in all of these elections is getting that specific group of people. You know, there's super voters on both sides, but getting the people that are sort of with the Trump worldview, who aren't necessarily Republicans, but many of them, you know, would sort of consider themselves that now, is getting them to go to the polls when President Trump's not on the ballot and helping them understand that supports his worldview ultimately.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of bring this around, look, you have a standing army out here in the audience, right? These are President Trump supporters out here at CPAC. The millions and millions of people watching at home. What would be your marching orders to these folks out here in the audience that are watching this event right now, that are watching us have this conversation? What do they need to do to help solidify this political realignment?
Well, I mean, two things. One, put in the legwork. Obviously, we always need volunteers, and in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, you know, the Wisconsin GOP and many others are getting involved. And if you've got time to spare, go do it. It's very important. There's a lot at stake in that race, not the least of which, you know, could be the future of congressional maps, which is very important. We'll see what happens. But you know, just spread the word and continue to, frankly, encourage Republicans that are down ballot of President Trump to support his agenda, which is often but not always exactly aligned with, you know, the historic contours of the party. I mean, the last thing I'll say is I'll leave you with this. There's 13 seats in the House of Representatives that are occupied by Democrats that President Trump won. On average, the Republican underperformed him by 5.2 points. There's only 3 seats in the House that Republicans hold that Harris won. So that gives you some sense of the fact that we should be playing offense here. But that requires bringing all of the other Republicans up to the vote coalition that President Trump has and brought into office. So follow the Trump agenda and pass it, and we will all be rewarded for it.
Really exciting stuff. Thank you, James, for a great conversation, and give our best to President Trump.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, sir.